nothing ever stayed the same. Want to let it change.
Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Lou, and today I'm going to be sharing my infertility journey before I was actually able to have my daughter. What I went through, my feelings, my thoughts, the different doctors that I had to go through, and in particular my experience here in the US. Because I'm not sure what it's like in Australia. I am Australian living here in the United States, but I only have the US perspective. I don't know what it would have been like if I was still in Australia. Now, these are mainly for women that are struggling with infertility, as well as for my daughter when she gets older. She can realize what her mum went through to have her. But mainly, if you're struggling with infertility, know that it's okay. It's hard. It's completely normal, and you shouldn't feel less about yourself because it's hard, and I'm sorry. I know how you feel. And yeah, let me just start going. So first things first, I did get pregnant. I had a partial molar pregnancy, which caused me to have a D&C and a miscarriage, and then a D&C. And you should have seen if you didn't see my miscarriage story, I'll link it up above somewhere and in the description below so you can see that as well. And so after this particular type of pregnancy, you aren't allowed to get pregnant until your HCG levels are 0.000 whatever for at least 3 or 4 months to make sure that basically the mass doesn't grow back, and then you have to be on chemo. So luckily that did not happen. About 9 months after my D&C, so I had a lot of blood tests and I was cleared and I was allowed to try again. Now in this particular time I had the rod thing in my arm, and with being in a new country, not really understanding the food in this country and how much sugar is in it, I gained weight a lot. I then started getting very depressed, and I went and saw a therapist, and I'm so grateful that I saw that therapist. He helped me figure out how I think and how to change that thinking into more positive rather than all this negativity that I was putting on my own shoulders. So I gained a lot of weight, and my husband and I were trying for like 3 months plus, and nothing was going on. My periods were completely out of, they weren't even working. Like, I would have a period for a whole month. Now women, girls, if you've had a period for a whole month, it sucks. It sucks having a period in general, but I had one for a whole month. It was completely, it was everywhere. I would be bleeding heavily, and then I wouldn't be bleeding the next day, and then I would bleed heavily again for like a week. It wasn't normal. And then I wouldn't have a period again for like 3 months, and then I would be bleeding heavily for 2 months. I don't even know what was going on. My body was just going crazy, and I don't even think, I took some ovulation tests, and every time it always said that I was ovulating. That's what they all said. And I was confused. And so I decided, all right, I need to see a doctor to figure out these periods. For starters, something is wrong with my reproductive system. Not only do I want to get pregnant and have kids, yes, that is the hope, the joy to be able to do that. But first, what I wanted to do was fix me. I wanted to fix what was wrong with me, as in my periods. And so I went to the first doctor. I told them that yes, this is what's wrong. My periods are completely off. I do eventually want to get pregnant, but I want to figure out what's going on first. And they kind of listened to me, and she decided to do some blood work to see how, what my what was going on in my body. They noticed that my thyroid was a bit off, so that she was like, all right, take some thyroid medication. And me going, okay, well, maybe that's just it. Maybe it's just my thyroid, because she didn't say anything else. So I took the thyroid medication, and it made me so sick. Like, I don't know why, but I would take it and I would feel nauseated all day until like 8 o'clock at night. And then the next day I would take it again, feel sick. It's like about 20 minutes after taking it. I don't know what was wrong. I did tell her that this medication is making me sick and I'm not going to be on it anymore. And then she's like, all right, here, take these other pills so that you can ovulate and then get pregnant. I'm like, no, that is not what I want. I want to fix my periods. Yes, I want to get pregnant, but I want to fix up my periods first. She didn't listen. So I decided to go to a second doctor. That second doctor was just as bad as the first. They did do blood work on me. They're like, oh yeah, your thyroid's off. I'm like, yes, I know. I told you this. But they did do an ultrasound up on, in my uterus area. And they're like, oh, it's okay. Like, that's all they said. They didn't look at anything. They're like, oh, it looks normal. And here's some pills. If you take these pills, they'll get you pregnant. It'll help you ovulate and get you pregnant. I'm like, no, that is not what I want. I'm like, it was starting to drive me nuts. And so lucky enough, my husband's insurance changed. So that caused me to go to a different doctor. So now I'm off to doctor number 3. By the way, guys, this all happened within 2 years. Like, I was going, like, the first doctor, I was there for about 6 months. And then the second doctor was about a year. And now I'm on to the third doctor. Okay, so this third doctor listened to me, which was great. She's like, okay, well, let's figure out what's going on. Here's the plan. We're going to do some blood work. We're going to do some ultrasounds. We're going to see what happens there. And then if nothing else, if I can't find anything, then I'm just going to put you on these pills to get you pregnant. And I'm just like, okay, let's just start with plan number 1. So she did blood work. She told me my thyroid was off. And I'm like, yes, I know. And I told her about my, my experience with thyroid, and that I didn't want to take thyroid medication because it made me sick. And she's like, okay. Then she's like, well, let's do some ultrasounds. She looked at some ultrasounds. She's like, I don't really see anything different or off, but let's do this particular type of x-ray. So it's like a radioactive x-ray. What they do is you have to go to the hospital for this. They chuck up some radioactive dye into your uterus, and then it kind of swims through your fallopian tubes and kind of just shows and illuminates what's going on in your reproductive system. It's pretty cool. Apparently my grandma did it when she was having some fertility issues. But I was kind of shocked. I was like, okay, this is the first doctor that's doing something different. And so I went to the hospital. My husband came with me because apparently you're not allowed to drive afterwards because it kind of hurts. It was uncomfortable. I'm going to tell you that. It wasn't the funnest thing ever. But the x-ray technician who did the procedure was very lovely. It was a guy, which was kind of awkward because, showing the girls, well, not those girls, but, down there. And, yeah, that was kind of uncomfortable. But he told jokes and made me laugh. Well, not really laugh, but chuckle and make the experience a bit more comfortable for me. Anyway, so we did that radioactive thing, which apparently can, if there is a blockage in your fallopian tubes, it can help clear them and then you can get pregnant. But apparently nothing was wrong. The x-ray showed nothing. So I was like, okay, well, that's it. And then she was like, okay, now let's go on to these pills to get you pregnant. And I'm just like, no, thank you. I'm good. And then again, then our insurance changed again, which means I had to get a new OB, GYN. And so I was just like, okay, I'm kind of done right now. I wanted to take a break because by this point in time, it's been 3 years. Me and my husband kept trying. Like, to this point, we weren't even using any protection. Like, we kind of just accepted the fact that we weren't going to have kids. We were looking into adoptions, and, well, in particular myself, and my goodness, the amount of money that would have cost. And then we looked into foster care. That wasn't going to go out too well. It was kind of crazy. So I was feeling, I was feeling really down. Like, my body, like, I wasn't losing weight. I was feeling gross, guys, to the point where I'm just like, why can't my body do this? What is wrong with me? Why can't my periods be normal? And I tried eating healthy, tried exercising, nothing was changing. And you could tell in my mental capacity and my moods that I wasn't happy. And I just really thought that my body could do this. And I prayed and I fasted and was looking for directions, and by this point in time, I met this wonderful friend of mine who's a great friend of mine now, and she told me about her infertility journey, and that she came down here to New Mexico for this particular doctor. And I contemplated about it, and I was just like, but no, like, I've been to 3 doctors already. Why do I want to go to another one? So we tossed and turned about it, and by this point in time, it was, I think my husband and I, it was our fourth or 5th wedding anniversary. And we decided, all right, let's go to this doctor. So on our anniversary, we decided, and we went to our fertility doctor. So this is a fertility doctor. So he's a specialist. Amazing reviews, just all-time awesomeness. I don't really know how to describe. So he went in, and we went into his office. And I'm like, okay, this is weird, because normally I go straight into a room where they usually ask me to undress. But he just sat me and my husband down in there, and he's like, okay, tell me your story. And I was kind of a little shocked, because no doctor has asked me to tell them my story. And so I relayed everything to him, and he's like, okay, well, it sounds like you have PCOS. That's what it sounds like in regards to what you're telling me. But what we're going to do is we're going to test both you and your husband, and we're going to go from there. So let's get you into a room. So then by that point in time, I'm like, okay, here we go. He's going to put me on some medication or something like that. But surprisingly, it was the fastest ultrasound I have ever seen. Like, it was a vaginal ultrasound. So I, was undressed from the waist down, and he puts it up in there and twists, turns, done. Like, within 4 or 5 seconds, guys. Like, I mean, it was so fast. Like, you could barely tell that ultrasound was in me. And he's like, yep, you have PCOS and scarring on your uterus. Like, boom, like that. I got a diagnosis within the first 15 minutes of this appointment. Done. And I was very shocked, because no one told me. Out of the 3 doctors previous to that, no one even told me that I had PCOS. So PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. Okay, if you want more information, I'll link a web page down below. But overall, he's like, okay. Then after that, he moved us into this consulting room, and he laid down a whole bunch of sheets of paper with information on it. And I was like, all right, here we go. Here's where the medication comes in. But surprisingly, he didn't. He's like, all right, what we need to do is we need to put you on a diet. And you can choose to do two different things. You can do intermittent fasting, or you can do keto, or you can combine them both if you want to. And what this is going to do is hopefully help you lose weight that's a bit more healthier, and we're going to go from there. And he's like, and I want to see you in 2 weeks. Because you also have a heart-shaped uterus. So uterus is usually, kind of triangular. Mine was like this, which apparently can cause problems with implanting of an embryo. I think an embryo. And so I'm like, okay, the first ever doctor to tell me to go on a diet and tell me my diagnosis. I was happily thrilled, yet annoyed. Okay, because it was my husband and I's wedding anniversary, and we were planning on going to an Italian restaurant. Now, Italian food is all about pasta and deliciousness, okay? Like, I love Italian food. Love carbohydrates. But apparently my body doesn't. So, when we looked up the keto diet, I was angry. So angry. So bad. I was so frustrated. And then my husband's like, hey, if this helps you with your periods, and if it helps you to be able to lose weight and make you happier, like, I'm not saying that losing weight, guys, equals happiness, but for my own physical, energized body, being overweight / obese is not good for myself, okay? And so if that made me happier to be able to run and not be tired after 3 steps or so, or like 300 meters. I don't know what that is in feet, okay? But like, I wanted to be able to run again. Like, I was a long distance runner, kinda. I loved running when I was younger. By younger, I mean like 21. And younger from there. And I wanted to do it again. I didn't want to be struggling while exercising. That wasn't me. It wasn't who I am. And so I started dieting. I started following the keto diet pretty strictly. And, you can kind of get the keto flu thing. But after those 2 weeks, my goodness, guys, the weight started falling off me. I was feeling energized. I was feeling like my old self again. My periods were kind of getting somewhat better. At least they weren't lasting for a whole month anymore. And then I had my first kind of surgery thing. What they do is they kind of get like a pair of scissors. Again, I'm not a medical person, okay? I'm just telling you it descriptive wise of what I think it is. So they kind of get a pair of scissors and they kind of do little snips to the heart-shaped uterus. So snip in here. So it kind of goes as flat as they possibly can. So they did that surgery and they kept losing more and more weight. And I think I lost about 20 pounds, which I don't know what that is in kilos. You see, guys, living in 2 different countries with 2 different measuring / metric system, and then the other system. I don't know what the US system is, but it does my mind. Anyways, so I lost about 20 pounds and I was feeling good. I had to get new clothes, which instead of getting new clothes on the bigger size, I could go down now, it was making me so happy. I was running. And then I had another surgery. So by this point I'm going in for my second surgery for the heart-shaped uterus. By the way, so the scarring on my tissue, the doctor stated, this fertility doctor, stated that was because of my D&C that I had because of my partial molar pregnancy. So not only did I struggle with that miscarriage and that D&C, but it had left lasting damage on my uterus. Oh, I've got to add a point. During this whole time, from the D&C to before I got pregnant, sex hurt. It really did. It was extremely uncomfortable. And it shouldn't be like that. Like my husband and I, we tried different things to alleviate this discomfort, because before then, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. And nothing changed except for the fact that I had a D&C. And I don't know what happened. I don't know what they did in there. But from that point forward, sex hurt. And I wanted to be with my husband, because being intimate is really important for a relationship. And so, yeah. It's crazy how much miscarriage can cause so many problems afterwards. But let's continue. So, sex hurt. I was doing these surgeries. So I got my second one. They had to put me completely under, because the first one it was quite painful. So, and I have a high pain tolerance, just so you know. So they put me under this time, and then I woke back up 10 minutes later. And okay, we're probably gonna have to do a third one. We did remove a pulp. So it's kind of like a small little, I kind of want to think of it like a little pimple. And apparently that was covering one of my entrances to a fallopian tube. So they did remove that. And they also, fixed well, not quite fixed, but they were going to do a third one to completely make it flat. And I'm like, okay, sounds great. And they scheduled it a month later. So that by this point in time, we've been seeing this fertility doctor for about 4 months. And in that time, I had two heart-shaped surgery things. And I've been on this diet. I've been running. I've been losing weight. I'm feeling good. And then, the pandemic hit in March. And so I kept running, still feeling good. Weight was coming off. And then April hit. And it was about mid-April. Oh, I've got to mention. In March, my husband and I, before the pandemic hit, we went to a foster care / adoption information session, because we kind of just were like, you know what? We don't know if this fertility doctor is going to get if we're going to even get anywhere. Because he kind of said if we wanted to ensure that we weren't going to have another partial molar pregnancy, we'd have to do IVF. And my husband and I didn't want to do IVF. It was kind of I don't know. That's not me. I love modern medicine. I'm so grateful for it. But I didn't want to go that far to have a kid when there's already children here on the earth that need a good home. So my husband finally agreed to go to this foster care / adoption information session. We grabbed all the information, and during March we were filling out the paperwork, and then the pandemic hit, so that caused a pause on everything. And then April, about 2 days before I was going to go in for my third heart-shaped uterus surgery, I took a pregnancy test. So you have to take these tests, the pregnancy test, the day of. But I normally take it 2 days beforehand and then the day of. Don't ask me why. Actually, I like to be prepared. I don't like to be shocked. I like surprises, but I don't like shocked surprises, if that kind of makes sense. I like to know what's going on in my body. So I took this pregnancy test, and I'm like, all right, like, you know, you're hopeful that it's positive, but in my mind, I'm like, it's going to be negative. But I'm like, kind of hoping it's positive. Every time I take a pregnancy test, it's the same. I'm hoping like a little bit that it's positive, but I'm knowing that it's probably going to be negative. So, you know, I waited the time and I looked at it. I'm like, oh, it's positive. I took 2 more before telling my husband. So I took 2 more. All 3 of them said that it was positive. And I woke up my husband because it was like 6:30 in the morning. And I'm like, so this just happened. What's next? And so I called up the fertility people, and my husband was shocked. Surprisingly shocked. Okay, because, you know, we've been hoping for this, but kind of shocked because we kind of accepted the fact that we weren't going to have any kids biologically. And so my doctor's like, okay, well, we're going to cancel that surgery and we want you to come in for a blood test. So went in for a blood test, and then, yeah, I will tell you my pregnancy journey later. But that was my infertility journey, guys. I had to go through 3 doctors, 3 OBGYNs, which their specialty is the female reproductive system. They didn't know what was going on with me. I had to go to this fertility guy 3 years later after my D&C, 3.5, let's go with 3.5, to tell me what was going on with my body. Now, my periods did get better. Were they completely normal, like every 28 days? No. My periods had never been normal every 28 days. They've always been like on and off, unpredictably, but at least they didn't last for a whole month. So that was good. I haven't had a period since giving birth to my daughter yet. It's been about 10 months. We'll see what happens. But overall, if you're going through infertility, I suggest, if you're struggling mentally, to see someone, to talk to your friends and your family. If you feel comfortable sharing with them about what's going on, I heavily suggest, if your doctor doesn't know what's going on, keep going to different doctors until you find one that tells you what's going on. Like, I swear, if I didn't stop, like if after that 3rd one, if I just kept going, and if I just decided, you know what, let's go to a fertility guy or girl, doctor, okay, I might have found out sooner. But I didn't know. I was in a brand new country. Like, the medical system is crazy anyways, no matter where you are. And I just didn't know. I didn't know who to see. I didn't know who our insurance was going to cover. And I gave up because I wasn't sure what was going on. And I didn't know who to see. So I'm very grateful for my friend that introduced me to this doctor and like kept me going to try to figure out what was wrong. And I'm very grateful for that doctor to have the knowledge and the understanding and listened to me and to suggest something other than giving me medication. Like, yeah, okay, I had surgeries, but at least he didn't go, here, take these pills, it will ovulate, it'll help you ovulate. Like, he listened to me. And I'm really grateful for that. So, if you're struggling, I'm sorry. I know how you feel. If you want to talk about it, let me know. But I heavily suggest finding someone that you can relate to, that you can share your feelings to. Because you don't have to be the strong. You don't have to be strong. You don't have to put on a shield or an armor and pretend that you're okay. Even though you want to, it's best just to just be open. Because there might be someone else that's struggling out there too that might need to hear what you have to say. And then you two can help each other. I'm very grateful that my husband was there for me and helped me keep going and continues to encourage me to stay healthy and strong. Not as in like a bad way, guys, like as in a good way. Like I got a good husband. And yeah. I hope this helped at least one person. If not, Betty, that's the struggle that your mum went through to get you. It was shockingly wonderful to fall pregnant with you, eventually after 4 years. I hope you all have a wonderful day and that you can be kind and courteous to others, because my goodness, this world needs it. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
you.